So, in this video, we will discuss CR formula or Rajaji formula. Fine. So, heading would be Rajaji formula. Fine. Rajaji formula. Have you heard about this Rajaji? Rajaji is actually Rajgopalachari, a veteran Congress leader. And in 1944, right, this formula was proposed. Why this formula was proposed in 1944? Actually, to break the deadlock between the two major political parties. And this Rajaji formula became the basis of Gandhi-Jinnah talks. Fine. So, I hope now you are getting this formula, right, you should appreciate in the context of those difficult years, 1944, 45, 46, right. And this formula was an attempt, right, to solve the problem, to, you can say, break the deadlock. Fine. So, this formula was proposed, and formula was that till war there should be cooperation between Muslim League and Congress. And after the war, here when we say war, we mean Second World War. So, till World War, Muslim League and Congress should cooperate, and after the war, there would be a plebiscite in Muslim dominated districts, and if they decide in favor of separation, then there would be some, right, you can say common control, defense, communication and commerce. And condition was that first, right, independence, then partition. But Jinnah rejected this formula, right, and this attempt failed, this attempt to evolve a formula failed. Fine. So, this is in general you have to remember what is called Rajaji formula. What we can remember about Rajaji formula? We can remember number one point, right, this formula, right, is in 1944. This is the first point you can remember, 1944, Rajaji formula. Who was this Rajaji? C. Rajgopalachari. C. Rajgopalachari. Fine. He was a veteran Congress leader that time. And this formula was for Congress League cooperation. Congress League cooperation. This formula was for Congress League cooperation. I hope you understand. This was very difficult, right, challenge, this difficult kind of period, and it was a challenge. Congress League cooperation in 1944, you should conceive this in the context of the demand of Pakistan, right. So, Rajaji tried to evolve a formula for this Congress League cooperation, right. And it was an acceptance, try to understand it, acceptance of demand of Pakistan in one sense. Why? Because they were saying that till war you should cooperate, and after you can say like that, right, we can discuss it, and priority should be independence first, then partition. So, in that sense, it was a kind of acceptance of Pakistan, and right, Gandhiji initially also when he proposed, right, he was happy, right, okay, right, we can at least solve this problem. But, right, Hindu Mahasabha, right, not ready for this kind of formula. Muslim League not ready for this kind of formula. Fine. So, what exactly was this formula? Right. What was this formula? CR formula, which actually failed, right, which actually failed. We can mention the formula was number 1, that Muslim League to endorse Congress demand right for independence. Muslim League to endorse Congress demand for independence. This we have to remember. Then second, that League to cooperate right with Congress in forming provisional government at center, right. And after the end of the war, this you have to remember, after the end of the war, the entire population of Muslim majority areas in the northwest and northeast to decide by plebiscite whether or not to form a separate sovereign state, and in case of acceptance of partition, after this plebiscite, agreement to be made jointly for safeguarding defense, commerce and communication. Fine. Right. And I told you what was the condition. These terms to be operative only if England transferred full powers to India. Fine. But Jinnah rejected this. He was not ready for this kind of approach. And I told you that even Hindu leaders also condemned this. Also Savarkar and others, they also condemned this formula. So this formula was not successful. But it was an attempt. To, you can say, break the deadlock. Fine. And when Jinnah rejected this formula and insisted on the ideas of Pakistan consisting of some provinces, there was no scope of talk and the situation became very critical. Fine. So we should remember this Rajaji formula 1944, which became the basis of Gandhi-Jinnah talks.